Sivo, Brimo, go Brimo, go AJ, baby, go AJ, baby. Let's go, baby. Let's go, Brimo, millionaire, baby. That's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about. Brimo. Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode here of the Gold Coast Titans Frontline Podcast. My name is Blaze from BKRsport. I'm joined here by Clarkey that we'll introduce in just 1 second here. Obviously, this podcast, guys, is everything Gold Coast Titans. From the men's to the women's, we've got the Host Plus Cup as well. That includes the Tweed Seagulls and also now the Ipswich Jets. Not the other team. They went sneaky. They went elsewhere. So we can't really talk too much about them. But obviously today, guys, you know, we're going to be talking everything in regards to the preseason, getting hyped up for the year, and I'm looking forward to it because obviously, you know, we do need to try and put ourselves back onto a positive stance, I guess, after the weekend that just was, but I know that we definitely will be able to, and look, I'm excited to chat here today, but obviously we are joined here by Clarkey as per usual. How are we doing, man? Have you gotten past the scoreline of the weekend's game?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I was over it by the time full time, but if I'm absolutely honest, there was a few things I wasn't happy with in the game, but there was also a lot of positives, and I think you could, you know, make that case for a lot of what we see in trials with other teams. But big show ahead, probably a shorter show than what we're used to because we won't be previewing our round one game until we've got those team lists next Tuesday. So what we'll go through here today, guys, we'll do our review of the trial game, give our 3-2-1s, talk a little bit about feeder clubs in Queensland Cup, and then we'll give some 2024 NRL season predictions, MVPs, top try scorers, ladder finish, all that good stuff. Usually we start the show with the Titans news. Nothing significant there that we won't otherwise discuss in this one. And just before we get started, if you are on YouTube, could you please give us a thumbs up and subscribe if you're new here? Same goes if you're listening on Spotify or Apple. Drop us a rating. It really helps grow this Titans community that we want to be loud and proud and holistically capture everything that is Gold Coast Titans and our community.
And I will say on that as well, we've actually been seeing a lot of people really starting to get behind the podcast. We've been getting heaps of messages and whatnot of you guys listening in, saying that you do appreciate there is a genuine Titans podcast out there that you can get, you know, everything Gold Coast. You know, it's been great to see. We've had players' families messaging us. You know, I know, you know, I've been getting a whole heap of people, whether it be through Spotify, Apple, YouTube, and then obviously us getting messages on Instagram and Facebook. It's really great to see that you guys do really support what we do here because at the end of the day, we're two passionate fans just like you. Obviously, we just have, you know, we're public content creators, right, that get to voice our opinions and concerns and whatnot, but you guys can jump into the comment section, let us know your thoughts as well. We definitely want to hear all about it because, you know, it's not just about us, it's about the whole community, and that's why we do it, so we appreciate all the love.
Yeah, this podcast definitely is community first. If I can take back to, I reckon maybe a year ago it would have been, you came to me and said we should make a Titans podcast, and I'll be transparent here for our viewers. I said no. I said, look, we both love the club, but it's not worth my time because
wow,
only having so many hours after I finish my 8 hours at work to have to do my other Clarkey's column commitments. I pretty much said to players at the time, it's not worth my time because we can only capture such a small audience. And then I started to really think that, yes, it is a smaller audience of what I can otherwise capture in terms of, you know, at the NRL itself, but there's probably there isn't a more important audience that, you know, or an audience that I'd appreciate as much as the Titans family and our community. So the podcast was something that bubbled for so many years. I messaged players last year and said, mate, we've got to do it. But it did take a bit of convincing, and it's been one of the coolest things that I've personally ever done in content creation. Absolutely loving it. Let's jump into the trial review, mate. We officially lose to the Parramatta Eels 26-16, and I'll start us with positives. I thought there was so many positives I'd like to discuss. Beau Fermor, he makes an unreal return from an ACL injury and was one of our best players. AJ Brimson looks at home in the centres. You can't tell me he didn't look his best on the weekend. We had a great second half from some of our younger players that came on, where we scored tries and defended well. Keano Kinney, there might have been question marks from rival fans, certainly not from Titans fans, but there's no question marks at all now that he is our fullback in round one. He looked awesome there as well. And of course, we did all this without our leader and our spine veteran in Kieran Foran, who withdrew relatively late into the week. So really, really great positives from that game. How do you break it all down, though?
Yeah, look, I think that I want to just kind of put a first thing out there in regards to last week. I was extremely confident going into this game, and I saw a couple of comments on Facebook. I'm not going to name anybody, right? But I saw a couple of comments on Facebook saying, like, you were so confident. The podcast was talking a big kind of up about this club, and it disappointed on the weekend. How is it kind of... In a way, it felt like, oh, how do we trust you if you're going to say this and it doesn't pan out that way? And what I'll say is that, one, we didn't actually have the full team lineup because there were a couple of outs after the podcast. You guys need to remember that we do record this podcast on the Wednesday, right? So it will come out on Thursday, and then there'll be late outs. Like Kieran Foran wasn't an out until the weekend. Brian Kelly came out after the game as well. And then we also had those other players out as well. So overall, we can only go off of what we've got, and that team makes me super confident. And I will tell you right now that I genuinely believe, full team on full team, I believe we win that game 13+. I believe we beat Parramatta 13+ with a full team, because if you look at it this way, right, we lost this game by 10 points, 26-16. We missed 4 of our kicks. Now, yes, they missed 2 of their kicks, but that's not our problem. That's their issue. Our problem is our kicks. So if we get our kicks, then we lose the game by like 2 points. It's 26-24. And this is with all those players out. This is with development squad, the development players coming through. And whilst they did the same late on in the game, at the end of the day, we did not get absolutely walked off that park. In the first half, it was a little bit concerning in regards to the defensive structure. We were seeing a little bit of Titans of old, and it was a little bit of a worry. But at the end of the day as well, you've got to remember that this is a trial. So we are adapting this new style, and that's the first game that our big boys have had together to try and work it in. So to clarify there, I know we lost by 10, but in my mind, we get the kicks that we are given. I don't care about them missing their kicks or getting their kicks, because that's not our issue. Our issue is what we do and what we do only. So by us missing those kicks, you give us those 8 points. And Tanner Boyd is a 90% kicker normally. He's copped a whole heap of criticism this week. And look, I understand the concerns that it didn't really look like too much of a changed game from Tanner. But I do believe that when he's got Kieran Foran there, rather than Tommy Weaver, I feel like this game, it did give me a little bit of worry about, and I said this before in the podcast, I don't necessarily believe that Tanner Boyd and Tommy Weaver, I think they can kind of clash with each other in regards to their game styles. And I kind of feel like you have to have one or the other, which might sound harsh to say, but it's not. Like, I'm just saying that these guys seem to have relatively clashing styles, in my personal opinion. So that's why Foran is so important, man. And it's going to be interesting to see how this team does go this year if Foran is obviously out or whatnot. It's going to be super interesting to see how we go. But overall, I was impressed with a lot of factors of the game. I was impressed with the fact that, we didn't give up at any stage. We did have our youngsters that show that we have a quality amount of depth in this team. Like, honestly, we have a top 5 depth in the competition. And I think people will struggle to be able to argue that. The only teams that right now, and I did a depth tier ranking on the channel on BKRsport the other day, and I put out that, you've got the Roosters, who obviously are doing pretty well right now. You've obviously got the Panthers and whatnot. But overall, our depth actually showed that they're better than the Parramatta depth. If Parramatta get one injury, they're done. They're done if they lose Mitchell Moses and Dylan Brown and whatnot. With us, if Tanner goes down, we bring in Tommy Weaver. And like I said, they're kind of similar styles, right? So I'm actually really pleased that our depth has proven itself. I don't think there's too much to worry about that game. There was some really nice plays that went down the right. Like that pass from Tanner Boyd down to the right-hand wing there for, was it Phil? Who was the one who scored that one down that right? I think it might have been Loft, wasn't it? Or Phil? Which one?
Well, they both scored, but I believe Phil was on the right side when he scored that try. Yeah,
it must have been Phil. So that's right. He definitely was on the right side, because we'll get into that other moment in a second. But that was a really nicely worded try out to the right-hand side with a nice lofty double cutout pass there from Tanner to Phil Sammy to score there. And I think we're going to see a lot of that. We saw the pace from Brimo. Like, the pace from Brimo in this game was absolutely phenomenal. He scored that breakaway try, which was great. We saw some really nice movement from him, so I'm incredibly excited about him transitioning into that position, just obviously worried about the injuries. And I will say as well, people will criticise the lack of effort that we saw in Phillip Sammy's tackle that led to a try there for the Eels. But overall, I don't think in the regular season that effort is there. I think that he absolutely goes above and beyond to stop that. And I believe, and I said this on the stream, I believe that 3 of those tries in the regular season that Parramatta scored, when the boys are actually up and at him, caring about the 2 points that are on offer rather than just going out to trial it out. And whilst it may be disappointing that they're not completely and fully out there in a trial game, the fact of the matter is that 3 of those tries are actually quite easily defensible if the boys are completely invested in the result of the game. So I'm not too worried. I looked at a lot of positives there, a lot of concerns in that first half defensively, but I definitely think they can be ironed out.
I always look at trials, and I'm not necessarily looking at the result. I'm looking at things I want to see within the game, because I just don't care for trial results. They do not mean anything, guys. The Tigers could beat the Storm 50-0 on a trial, and I wouldn't care.
Yeah, but they did lose by 30 to the Dragons or so. So just to clarify the Tigers did lose by about 20-30 to the Dragons. So.
Yes. Well, that is probably...
And the Dragons are winning the comp now, too. The Dragons are apparently winning the comp because they won that game. So that tells you everything you need to know, ladies and gentlemen.
Ironically, that was probably a very bad example because the Tigers do seem like, even though it was just a trial, they've got a lot to work on. But pretend I didn't give that example and gave another. And I'm always looking for certain things in a trial rather than the result. And the other takeaway I had from your thoughts there was the halves combination. It reminded me a little bit of when we had Kane LG and Ash Taylor. And they're both young and they both play so similar that it didn't work too well in the halves. But then you put someone like Tyrone Roberts in there, who individually probably wasn't as good as either player, but both of them played better beside him because it was that different contrast in the halves. And I do think in some teams, you need an experienced half and then you can have an inexperienced for your other. But then in other teams, you kind of do need two halves that play a different style of footy, like the Eels have in Mitch Moses and Dylan Brown, for example. So I'll run through some of my notes. Feel free to jump in whenever you've got a point in return here. So for me, the only real disappointing point I can say, and keep in mind how many positives I had, was the first 20 minutes in that first half. But to add a silver lining to that, it is only a trial. And it gives us an opportunity to work on that in the next week and a half now, see if there was some deficiencies.
I do want to say something on that as well, just briefly, is that Desi Hasler is actually quite infamous as well for losing trials and can lose trials well. I remember, I think it was like 10 years ago, maybe with the Doggies, or it could have been with Manly. I remember him getting the Manly Seagulls or Dogs getting beaten by like 40 by a team that was down the bottom of the table at the time, and I believe they ended up winning the comp, so it might have been 2011. But the point of the matter is that Des Hasler does not care about trial results. He does not care about it. It's just as simple as that. He's looking at the individual players and little tactics in between. So, and it goes back to a conversation that you and I actually had before the trials, and I was like, man, I can really tell that people are really excited about the trials right now. I can really tell that there's really a lot of chatter going on, but... you kind of replied and said, oh, no one usually really cares about it, which you're right, because a couple of years ago you couldn't even watch it. But I think that now, because it's a technical challenge, the point of the matter is that people now look at those games and think, oh, okay, here we go again. This is it. Okay, we're taking trial as a fact. And I think that I wish people still had the same viewpoint that you had in regards to not really caring about it, because it just doesn't make sense that people are going off about individual trials and whatnot.
Exactly, and I think Des Hasler really showed his hand with that week one side that he put out, right? That the trials don't matter to him. He's just looking to see little bits and bobs rather than an overall result. So, silver lining to it, yes, our defense was a little bit poor in the first 20, but it gives us an opportunity to work on that over the next week and a half. In addition to that, I will say we did only miss 23 tackles, whereas the Eels missed 44. So they almost missed double the tackles statistically. And as you said, there's probably 2 or 3 tries in there that if it's a competition game in the regular season, we're probably not leaking those tries, especially when you look at that stat there and consider they missed almost double tackles.
That's what I'm saying, bro. That's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah. Phil Sammy doesn't miss that tackle in the regular season. He doesn't. It's just Phil Sammy does not miss it.
And I think it's about acknowledging it's a trial and you do want to see certain things, but then going that little bit deeper and looking at the stats behind it and stuff like that really tells you where we're at, in my opinion anyway. AJ Brimson failed his head injury assessment. Our round 1 fixture is still a while away. He will be available for his 100th NRL game there. I thought having 2 young halves we completed really well, if I'm absolutely honest. And that's reflected in our 86% completion rate and our 4 tries to their 5. So 2 young halves there, clashed at times, but certainly didn't make errors uncharacteristically throughout the contest. Brings me to my next point. Of course, you've already touched on it. We actually didn't kick a goal this game. Clearly an off afternoon for Tanner, and I'm sure it's something he'll work diligently to address before round 1.
I've got to address something here. Everyone always knows me by my Tanner doesn't miss, okay? And obviously, I live streamed this game, right, guys? So, that was every time that I would say, oh, he's not going to miss this. He doesn't miss. I'd see him miss it, and I'd pretend that someone's at the door and I didn't watch it. All right, so like I like it was really difficult to have that kind of. And I know that. By the way, actually, this is something that I'll say. I won't say who said it, but a couple of the boys have said how heavy the track was, how heavy that it was, and that there was a real subtle wind as well about that. Because Moses, I don't believe, well, he missed 2 kicks as well for the Eels there. So look, he definitely didn't miss as many as Tan did, but Tanner was top 3 in the game for kicking last year, a conversion rate. I think he might have even been second behind maybe Nathan Cleary, if I'm not mistaken. So whilst there is criticism that is valid, that hopefully he will work on, I know him, he will work on it in regards to his on-field kicking game. In regards to his conversions, I'm not scared by him missing kicks. I still believe that he does not miss. It was just a trial, so it doesn't count.
That's fair. Trials don't count it, really. I mean, you're not even, you don't have to really be sarcastic about that. The facts are they don't count. Yeah, but look, Tanner still has a career rate of over 80% at NRL level, which is like 8 out of 10 times he's kicking it. And we do score a lot of tries out wide via our wingers. So he's a fantastic goal kicker. Even Michael Jordan's and the greats of sports have off days. So it's no surprise that Tanner had one off day with the boot. I don't look too far into that. I was a little bit disappointed with the amount of offloads they got. I thought we struggled a little bit there. Yes, we weren't missing the tackles, but they did manage 17 offloads to our 4, which is a big disparity in stats there. But look, my final thoughts on this one, Blaze. We used 13 interchanges. We were clearly looking to get some minutes through particular players, try out different combinations, rather than focus on winning this game. Anytime you're subbing 13 players, that's a lot of change throughout a game. So there's so many positives, man, and we got to focus on them, right?
Yeah, it's something that people need to recognise as well, is that we're starting to sub players in like 5 minutes in and 10 minutes into the game. We're trialling a completely different structure every 5 or 10 minutes in a trial game. So as you were seeing, Tino's on, Tino's off, Tino's on, Tino's off. Like the same team isn't even really together for 10 minutes at a time. So in an actual game, you're saying, and we'll get into our 3-2-1s in a second, but you're saying a lot of these guys who had these good stints, obviously playing for longer minutes. So, I was really actually quite impressed with Kyle Foxwell in this game, the new bloke here for the Titans in the depth department. I did think that he did very well in that second half and whatnot when he did come on. But yeah, look, overall, man, I just need to reinforce and reassure people that I still, and we'll get into our predictions later in this video, but I still have extremely high hopes for this team. Tanner does not goddamn miss, and I will shove that down everyone's throats for the rest of the season because he does not miss. And I'm still very confident in this team. So don't get down because of a trial result.
Absolutely right. I like you shouted there to Kyle as well. I thought he played really well. I loved his energy up around the footy. And it kind of goes back to what we were saying before. Like, although he doesn't have as many NRL games as like Tom Weaver or Tanner Boyd, he's older than both of them and played a lot of Q Cup and, competitions like that. And you could kind of see his experience having that different half out there. Did seem like it suited us. You referenced 3-2-1, so let's go there right away. I want to get your 3 points for this game, please.
All right, my 3 points for this game. I think I might go a little bit away from... I think I might go away a little bit from what people probably expect, but I am going to go with a guy who didn't play a crazy amount of minutes, but still was one of our best players on the field very clearly, and that's Tina Fa'asuamaleaui. I'm going to go big Tina for the 3 points. Look at this. 13 runs, 147 metres. 13 runs for 147 metres. What did he play? Like a half a game? Did he even play half a game? Like in this game? Like, did he play 50 minutes maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, so the NRL stats don't record minutes in trials. 80, but I'd say he played under 40.
Yeah. So you're telling me this guy's running for 147 metres, and this is why I say, like, people... we every single week we will put Tino usually as the 3 because he usually is in our regular season games. But just because it's not a regular season game and just because I want to shout out the guys, I'm still going to be truthful, right? And I just think that 13 runs for 147 metres, in such a short amount of time. He had 66 post-contact meters. He had 6 tackle breaks from 11 hit-ups in this game. Had an offload as well. And also played very well in the 13. He played very well in the 13, which starts to kind of make us think, like, maybe you could see Tino in the 13 now. Like, I didn't believe it beforehand, and I still have my doubts whether they do it, because with all due respect, I wasn't greatly impressed by Palasi's impact in this short amount of a game. But that's not me saying that he's not going to get that spot. It's just me saying, like, this game wasn't his best, unfortunately. So it does leave... This game from Tino did kind of give me a little bit of confidence that, yeah, maybe he could get that 13 role. The only issue is that in this game, he did miss 3 tackles, which is one of our higher in the game. But again, it just comes down to a bit of rustiness as well. You know, that's his first hit out since the Pacific Championships of last year when he was playing for Australia. So, you know, people forget that. It was the first hit out for these boys in a very long time. So, yeah, he missed a couple tackles, but overall, he's my 3 points. That's just a ridiculous amount of run meters, considering that he played for literally less than 40 minutes.
And that sums up Tino's mentality. Doesn't matter if it's a trial or a grand final, he's always going to give you 110%. And that's why he's such a great leader for our club. Love Tino's effort on the weekend. And to put that in perspective, Thomas McKaylee from the Cowboys this week in trials had 2 tries with less meters overall than Tino had post-contact meters.
Of course we have McKaylee playing well once he's left the club, yeah.
Yeah, not many players seem to leave the Titans and improve. That's definitely a very rare case there for Thomas McKaylee.
Say that to Jared Wallace, mate. Say that to Jared Wallace.
Yeah. Yep, you could definitely make a solid 13 of all-time players that left the Titans and played better or had great careers elsewhere. Tyrone Peachey, James Roberts,
please
Jared
don't
Wallace.
Start saying Jerome Hughes, Cody Walker and stuff like that, please.
Yeah, Jerome, Gavin Cooper. We had Gavin Cooper play for us.
Yeah,
a lot of great names there. My 3 points, I went the way of our superstar, Bowie Fermor. 1 try assist, 94 meters, 6 tackle breaks, the equal most on our team, and 24 tackles. Great to see Bo get some minutes into his legs, but not cheap minutes. Like, you know, he wasn't hiding out on his edge and timid and afraid to get back into the contest. He knew, I'm 100% recovered. I am fit enough. I am ready. And he ripped in. I loved his effort. You know, the try assist reflects that. Dangerous in attack like he was prior to the injury with the 6 tackle breaks, and then also worked hard on defense. So I absolutely loved Bo. I'll kick us across into the 2 points. I went with Keanu Kinney. He had 172 meters, which was the second most for our team. Also had 6 tackle breaks, 1 line break, and 0 errors. Look, it wasn't even Kinney's best game. Wasn't close to his best game, but it was still super consistent, and it was good enough to alleviate any doubts from any fans of any clubs that he is an out-and-out fullback and potential superstar in the future of this league. So Kinney gets my 2 points. And I want to pause here actually and ask, his name is pronounced Keanu Kinney.
Yes.
Am I? Yes, because Blocker Roach kept saying Keeney. And then I was like, wow.
Are you really going to start me on Blocker Roach, bro? He calls Tino
Yeah.
Fasuamui. Like, he calls him Fasuamui, brother. Like,
Yeah. I just wanted to double check that it's Kinney and not Keeney. And hopefully someone else learned that as well.
I will go and I'll message Keanu. I talked to Keanu quite a bit. I'll message him and make sure, but I'm pretty certain it's not Keeney and it's Kenny. But with that being said, I will clarify for the next podcast. Actually, I'm saying him tonight because when this is being filmed, guys, the Titans season launch is actually tonight, which is last night for you guys. So I'll see him tonight and I'll ask him. Actually, you know what? I'll record him. I will go up and ask and make sure. But yes, Blocker Roach. He is very infamous for pronouncing names quite interestingly. Tino Fasuamui is my favourite. Oh, no, he called him Tino Fasuamui. But all right, my 2 points. He spoke about, obviously, Keanu having the second most amount of run meters in this game. My 2 points is going to go to the Brimdog millionaire, AJ Brimson. I think he transitioned into that role absolutely phenomenally. 9 runs for 176 meters. Now, to compare this for everybody else watch, I guess, like, obviously, he did make that breakaway, but again, that's what we want, and does score that try. But at the end of the day, AJ looked absolutely unreal in that centre position, and a lot of fullbacks who are great fullbacks, they go into that centre role and they absolutely carve up. You're looking at guys like Tommy T. You're looking at guys like Latrell Mitchell, who is having his own question marks in fullback right now and might move back to the centres. So for me, I genuinely believe that we have got an absolute stunning centre here. And we just got to hope that obviously, he doesn't get, I guess, more concussions with more times obviously being, in the line. But overall, it's going to be an exciting season with AJ Brimson at the centre position. And then number 3, I will go with, there's a couple of players that I want to go with here. I think I have to go with Bowie, to be fair, Bowie Firma, simply because, and I will give a shout out to Cole players after you go, but Bowie Firma coming back from an ACL injury, mate. Like, you can't ask for more from a guy. And actually, fun fact for everyone, scored the most fantasy points in the entire, or for all the Titans, actually. I haven't actually looked. I'll just quickly go and have a look and see with the Eels to see if he did. Will Pansini scored pretty well, but he was up there. Let's put it that way. He was very high up there, but he was the most for the Titans. And this is in a game that people thought that we didn't play too well. So the point of the matter is that to have a game like he did, 9 runs for 94 metres, and he had a line break assist, he had a try assist in the game, 43 post-contact metres, 6 tackle breaks, 7 hit-ups. Go to the tackles. He made 24 tackles and only had 2 with 1 ineffective. Overall, very, very solid game there from Bowie Firma back from injury. And how crazy is this back row going to be when we have Bowie and Dave in the lineup?
Possibly the best.
It's the best back row. Yeah.
Yeah. Who would rival us? Panthers would have Liam Martin and who else is their other back row? It's escaping me at the moment.
Yeah, same here.
Scotty Sorensen.
Yeah, I'd take Dave Fafita and Bowie Firma, to be fair. I think it's close. It's close, but I'd still take... David Fafita is the best back row in the game, and then Bowie Firma is... When I did the tier rankings with Rando, I think he put Bowie about 9th or 10th, obviously off a fully healthy season kind of deal. Maybe you would look towards like an Eels or someone like that who have a pretty good forward pack. You've got Ryan Madison and Sean Lane, but I still take Dave Fafita and Bowie Firma. I don't know. I just think we've got the best back row in the game.
Yeah, the only if Kikau could get back to his best at the Bulldogs alongside Preston, that's a great back row pairing there as well. But I don't think Kikau will get we'd have to have a much deeper dive. But I'm happy to put my neck out and say that we do have the best back rowers. My 1 point went to AJ Brimson for all the reasons you said. I'll only add that he had 8 tackles for 0 missed, which was really good in his first hit out at centre, you would say. And of course, his head injury that he failed wasn't due to making an ineffective tackle. It was due to an illegal shot, of which that player has now been suspended for 3 weeks. So nothing you can say bad about Brimmer on that one. We'll go to Queensland Cup predictions in just a second, but go through, give us some of your notable mentions and players you really wanted to give a point to, but just couldn't find room.
Yeah, notable mention definitely goes to Keanu for the amount of run me's he made and just the work that he was doing at the back for such a young bloke. I do want to say... Defensively, Loffy wasn't exactly at his best, but overall, that massive hit that he put on, and also his acceleration is just insane. Like, the guy's acceleration from, like, a standing start to being just 100, 200 kilometre an hour runner is just wild. So, really impressed by his speed. He's obviously gotten bigger as well, so to actually look faster and bigger is quite scary, right? I just need to see him
8 kilos of muscle.
Yeah, exactly right.
8 kilos of muscle, so it's a big bulk up for a winger, man. That's a lot of muscle to pack on in just one off season.
Yeah, for sure. I thought that Sam Verrills was really key. I thought that he really, quickened up that ruck speed, and I think that he showed why he is one of the better hookers in the game when fit and healthy. So touch wood, we just need him to be fit and healthy. Who else? I thought Aaron Clark as well. He didn't have a great deal of time, but 14 runs for 114 metres. Getting over that 100-metre mark, maybe we are looking at him going into that 13 role if they put back Tino into the 10. But then it comes down to kind of what's going on with Isaac Liu, because I think he's been injured or sick. I think it might have been... I know it might have been sick because I know that Brian Kelly was out with a sickness that, a fun fact for everyone, kind of, seemed to have gone around the team there. So it's interesting to see that we still cracked on and still did what we did, despite the fact that we had a little bit of a sickness there with, BK. And then you've obviously got... let's go through down here. I think that, again, Isaac Fa'asuamaleaui, bro. Like, he has really come leaps and bounds in my mind. I think that Isaac is really starting to show me that he can definitely be on that bench. 4 runs of 43 metres. He only had a very short amount of time on the field. But to make that kind of impact, it just shows that him and Tito could definitely be starting in this team in the near future.
It could even be like a like a dynamic duo where we see one go off and the other come on, like the Knights do with the Saifidi twins, for example. That's definitely something we could see in the future with the Fa'asua. I was going to say how Blocker said it, but I forgot how it went, so I'll move on.
The Fa'asua brothers. And last shout out, Cole Foxwell, obviously. I thought he was really good in the second half.
Yeah, he was fantastic. So many positives from that game. Really happy with what we saw. It wasn't perfect, but we don't want to be perfect in a trial. We want to have stuff to work on. So I really, really like that. Despite the scoreline, I'm still taking the positives and ready to leave that in the past and look forward to a huge 2023. Every week here on the podcast, we will go over Queensland Cup, and it is back next Saturday. We've got 2 feeder clubs this year, being the Ipswich Jets and the Tweed Seagulls. What we do mainly is look at our Titans players, how they performed in reserve grade. We'll give you guys a bit of a stat read, and then we'll give our thoughts on how or when they might get a call up to the NRL lineup. The podcast really is to capture the entire Titans club and community holistically. We want to keep you as informed as possible on everything that is going on around our club, and this segment is the way we do that. We don't both watch a great deal of Queensland Cup, so you won't get per se strict analysis on each game, but you will get a rundown of our Titans players at the very least. Let's start with Tweed. Now, they finished 9th last year, Blaze, but they were a little bit unlucky because they needed to beat the South, the Falcons. They had to beat the Falcons to finish 8th, but Tommy Weaver got called up to NRL, and Justin Olam and Ryan Pappenhausen returned for injury for the Falcons that game. So it was super unlucky for us. We lost it and finished 9th. Where do you think they could finish this year?
Well, I think the benefit to Tweed this year is that it's stacked. Like, it is absolutely stacked, man. We've obviously, Burleigh Bears have gone to the Brisbane Broncos, so now we've got the Tweed Head Seagulls and the Ipswich Jets. But the Tweed Head Seagulls have just got such an unbelievable team as it is, and now they've got even more of the players. Like, I believe Tony Francis now also goes to the Tweed Head Seagulls, who was the top try scorer last year for the Queensland Cup, and it's just been on the try scoring rampage lately. You've got Isaac Fasul-Malawi, I think he's there. Did Jacob Arlett go from Burleigh to Tweed as well?
I know we did go over it on a previous podcast. It was a long drag reading out all the names. For anyone that's interested while you're listening, search Titans Feeder Club. Just type in Titans Feeder Club and there'll be an article on our website that'll actually show you where everyone is assigned. And every player gets assigned. Like even Tino, for example, is assigned.
Yeah.
Someone like who plays reserve grade.
Exactly right. And I do feel that like Tweed got a lot of the players that are probably... Yeah, I think Tweed got a lot of really, really incredible players that will really benefit from this year. And they already had some great players as it was. And I think that you'll obviously see the Bears drop down a little bit, even though they've got the Broncos, and I think Tweed are going to jump up. So, look, man, I think that team is so stacked, to be completely honest with you, that I can't see them outside of the top 4. I think that this Tweed Head Seagulls team has such unreal quality. It's already got Tommy Weaver there as well. And I really believe in what Tweed Head Seagulls can do, because going based off of my reaction when we did read out those players' names, it was that Tweed Heads had an absolutely stacked team. So I'm putting them into the top 4. And I could see a world where that team could come first as well and do what the Bears did last year, but go one more.
I remember back to that podcast, we both definitely agreed that Tweed had the stronger of our players assigned and players more likely to play reserve grade there. So I like their chances a lot this year. I think they'll be very strong. I think they'll be somewhere in that top 4. Other sides I expect to be there would be the Magpies and the Bears, being Broncos feeder clubs. They have some solid depth and a lot of good players in the reserve grade portion of those 2 clubs. But I'm going to go Tweed top 4. I can't give an exact ladder position, but I think they'll be right up there.
I think the issue with the Bears, though, is that we have no idea, because that's them just putting, I guess, players into that. Like with Tweed, we know that they were solid, and now they're getting even better players alongside the solidity there. So that's why I'm really confident that we can say that Seagulls will go into that top 4 at a minimum. But I think with the Bears, I really don't know how they're going to go, because one, I haven't obviously looked at what Broncos players are aligned with them. But also, 2, they're going into a completely different setup. So I could see the Bears dropping off, man. I could see them dropping down. That's not just me saying it. Like, I used to play for Burleigh when I was a young bloke, when I was really, really, like under 15s, under 14s kind of deal. So I do have a bit of a love for them, but now they're with the Broncos, I'm like, well, now I'm Tweed. But overall, I do think they could drop down and Tweed could go up, which would be kind of a kick in the teeth to the Bears, to be honest with you, to realise that they lost the players, they went there, and then to drop below their arch rivals, because Burleigh and Tweed hate each other. I can tell you guys that for free. Burleigh and Tweed do hate each other, even when they were aligned with the Titans, right? So, look, I really believe in Tweed this year, and overall, I've got them definitely top 4.
Yeah, there's some question marks for the Bears. It's a good point. They lose players like Kinney, Tony Francis, Jacob Barlick, and Isaac, who were all huge for them throughout the year. Most notably Kinney, though.
Keanu goes to Tweed.
Exactly right. And I think that even just him on his own, if he's not on our bench, if he's playing reserve grade, he's going to light up that competition. And if he is there for 20-plus games, I know that sounds a bit unlikely, but he'd win player of the whole competition, in my opinion. That's how high I rate Kinney. Let's go to the Jets. Now, this is a tough one to talk about. And there's some facts that we just can't gloss over.
Yep.
Okay. The Jets did not win a game last year. They've won 7 games in the whole last 3 seasons. Like, Titans fans think we've had it tough in recent years. Imagine being a Jets fan. Only 7 wins in 3 whole seasons. So it's clearly a side that needs a rebuild. They need to improve drastically. Having our players will help them. Look, I'll give my take and then I'll hear yours. I've got to be honest here. I think finals is extremely unlikely for the Jets, even with our players. I think our players will help them get on track and get some more wins throughout the year. Like, they could even win 8 games this year, which is a huge improvement because it's more than the last 3 years. But it would be a big effort for them to rebuild suddenly in 1 year and be back in finals. I think Jets this year are going to be like in that 10th, 11th, 12th range, where finals are always statistically possible, like they were for us last year, for example, in the NRL, the Titans, but it just seems unlikely. Statistically wise, you could crunch the numbers and say, we could get there, but I don't think it'll ever be a realistic proposition that we see Jets play finals. Are you going to mirror my thoughts there, or are you going to give a bold and outlandish take here?
No, I think that I guess that even yours is a bit of a bold and outlandish take, considering that they did come last and didn't win a single game last year. I do want to kind of throw a little bit of shade here at the Roosters and say, what are you doing with this club? Because ultimately, the Jets are actually aligned with their youngsters, with the Roosters, and we're obviously placing our players there because you can't have, I believe, more than 10 of your contracted NRL players play in a one individual Q Cup team, because otherwise it'd be ridiculously stacked. So I feel like it's like the Roosters are just using this club and doing nothing, is what I would see from the outside, because what are they benefiting from? Without us, they've come 0 wins. And now guess what? This year, I'm going to tip them to come 9th. I'm going to say that they're going to go where the Tweedhead Seagulls were last year, and Seagulls are going to go where the Bears were last year. And I feel like it could be a very similar thing, because we've got such great youngsters coming through. Again, we've got a very solid amount of depth in our Gold Coast Titans club right now as a whole. So that's a big, bold, outlandish prediction, just to have them there. And I think that's an incredibly positive season. Do I think they can make the finals? If I've got them in 9th, then there's a slight possibility. But I do think that a great season, 1, would be to get out of the bottom 4, 2, to at least win a damn well game, but also 3, to be competing for the 8. So, no, I don't think the Ipswich Jets are going to win the comp. I think that's probably more likely going to be Tweed out of our feeder clubs. But I do have Ipswich making a bit of a jump up when you've got, look at the Western Clydesdales, 3 wins, they're in 13th. The Cutters, 3 wins, they're in 14th. The Blackhawks, that's a big jump up to 8 wins. Devils, 8 wins. Hunters, 9 wins. Seagulls, 11 wins. I don't think it's absolutely crazy to say that this Ipswich Jets team, with the likes of Josiah Pahulu and the likes, I think that they absolutely can go up into that 9-10 range.
Yeah, I'm not going to write them off. They do have some other nice players, like Gordon Whippy. We've seen him for Fiji. I believe he's there. Khalil Rami. Yeah, we've seen him for Lebanon. He's a great young player. And then they also have Sam Walker's younger brother, who has a lot of raps on him. I think his name's Tyson Walker. I'm not sure if we'll see him at Host Plus Cup level this year, but if we do it would actually be exciting because he is touted as a really big prospect. Seeing him mix it with some of our Titans boys would be cool as well. But unfortunately, he has signed with the Roosters, so we won't be able to get him.
Again, it is technically a Roosters. It is technically a Roosters club. So that's the thing that people need to recognise, right? Again, when we don't disrespect Ipswich by saying that is just kind of how it is. We will be there to support you, but at the end of the day, we do need to focus more so on Tweed because they are directly aligned with us, and their youngsters do directly come to us, not the Roosters. So we're actually benefiting not only the Ipswich Jets here, but we are also benefiting the Sydney Roosters in this fact because it's going to help out their youngsters, come through. So no worries, Roosters. Thank us later because you've done nothing with this club, obviously, and I'm happy to throw shade there because they have done nothing. They've won no games last year. So if we win some games this year with Ipswich, it's directly the result of the Titans. So that's shade at the Roosters.
No, it's more than fair, mate. It's more than fair. It would be like if we stopped supplying our players to Tweed last year because we didn't think they were going to play finals anymore. And we said, we're just going to keep them here for the NRL just in case we need them. It's wrong.
So,
you've got an agreement.
Keep going.
Well, I just think it's wrong because, in principle, you've got an agreement, with that club where you benefit by getting the young Ipswich players such as Tyson Walker, Sam's younger brother, and you're not doing your bit. They're supplying players to you, but you're not holding up your end of the bargain and supporting them as a club, seemingly. Maybe they are financially behind their scenes. I don't know. Just from the outside looking in, it appears that way, though, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to go through the players here because I've just got it up here for Ipswich. They're going to get Jalen de Groot. They're going to get Ryan Foran. They'll get Arama Howe. They might get Isaac Liu. They'll get Ben Liu, Ken Mamalo, Seth Nicotemo, Josiah Pahulu. They'll get Aaron Shuppy more than likely. They'll probably get a Harley Smith-Shields. Maybe Joey Simpson, depending. And then obviously the other guys are more than likely obviously going to be playing for the Titans, so I don't really read their names out. But, just to compare that for everyone who was listening before about the Tweed one, they're probably going to get the guys like Jacob Alec, Oscar Bryant, maybe Aaron Clark, depending, Isaac Fa'asul Malawi, Jojo Fafita, Tony Francis, Cleese Haas is there, Jimmy Jolliffe, Keanu Kinney, as we said, the list goes on, Tommy Weaver, Ryder Williams. So overall, we do think that the Tweed team is probably a bit more stacked, but again, that's why I think Tweed goes up to that, top 4 spot, and Ipswich competes for the 8.
Yeah, I've counted about 9 players there I think are likely to play for Tweed, and 7 to 8 for the Jets, but more likely 7 because, So, I agree. I think Tweed will be stronger. Seems like we're both on the same page with the Jets. We think they'll improve. We don't think they'll be in the finals. And Tweed, we're both aligned that they will finish top 4. So exciting year ahead in Queensland Cup. It starts back this Saturday. And we will be here.
We'll be reviewing it next week. So there you go.
Absolutely. We will be here every single week to break down how our Titans go, just so everyone's keeping up to date with everything that's happening at our club. Let's jump into our 2024 NRL season predictions. We'll start with our ladder prediction of where we have the Titans finishing. Now, I went 8th. My ladder 1 to 8 reads Panthers, Broncos, Storm, Eels, Warriors, Knights, Roosters. Then I've got us there. I'd like to see us ideally finish 5th or 6th to get that home final. But I think the sides that I've got there in the Knights and the Warriors could be tough to knock off just based on their form last year. So I've got a lot of belief we can play finals. A lot of people are disagreeing with me on my page online regarding having the Titans in the finals. But I have a belief that I've never felt before at this club, and I've got to go with that belief, man. I've got to put us in 8th, even though I acknowledge if someone says I'm going to put the Sharks, Rabbitohs, and Cowboys, or even Seagulls and Dolphins ahead of you, I can see why you would do that strictly on just a footy discussion at the pub. But I've got belief in this club, man, so I'm going to go 8th. I know you've got a result that's a little bit more spicy for our listeners, though.
Oh, it's spicy, baby. Don't you worry. And guess what? You have a podcast here with me for the Gold Coast Titans Frontline Podcast, but you also have a podcast with Winnie from Tripod, who has the exact same prediction for me. Now, I'll give you my prediction, and then I'm going to let Winnie talk here, because we're going to use a part from the Tripod podcast. We'll leave a link to the description there. They do some really good stuff, Clarkey and Winnie. But I've got us in 4th. Yeah, I've got us in the top 4. I don't know if I've ever predicted us in the top 4. Usually I'll just throw us at 6th and say, hey guys, I just want a home final. I don't know if it actually happens, but I just want a home final. I genuinely believe that this team will come top 4. I genuinely believe it. And it was so nice. It was the sexiest thing that I've ever heard in regards to the Gold Coast Titans when we had a fan of another team, a fan of the Dolphins, a guy who has no interest in, or has no investment in the Titans, to come out and say such positive things about what our club can do. And it's like, it's one thing coming from me, but overall, yeah, I think that the Titans are a top 4 team this year.
I think Boyd has the ability to be a really dependable 7 and play his best footy on the back of this pack that has outstanding middles. Tino off signing the mega deal. Mo off winning player of the year. Palacia, great and underrated signing. Fafita reinvigorated. For more back. You need a solution at lock, but I feel like Des finds it, whether it's Liu, whether it's Aaron Clark there. The backline's got speed to burn, and that's before Campbell returns from injury. Last year went off the rails when Holbrook was displaced, but look, that was short-term pain for the gain of getting Des, who you said before, is a coach I think can unlock the best get the best out of these young players. I see a lot of players that are in their prime or about to be. And when you're trying to make a bold bet and you're trying to come up with something that other people aren't predicting, you've got to bet on what we haven't seen yet. You can't bet on the teams everyone knows and the players that everyone knows is good, because it changes every year. And especially, I think this is a good year for some real surprise packets because it's going to be that close. So if there's only a couple of wins between kind of 10th and 4th, you might as well have some long shots. Call me insane, and I've been called a lot worse. I think the Titans are making the 8. I'm predicting that they come in 4th, and I will give that out as a value play right now. Let's see how long it lasts. $10 on Sportsbet and $9 is good on Dabble as well for the Titans to finish top 4. Hose yourself down, Clarkey.
Mate, when you first said you're 4 apart, I fully expected you to say 12. As my daughter goes crazy behind
Setting it
me.
up that way.
But yeah, when at top 4, wow, you did surprise me there in a very, very good way. Sarah says, am I listening to the Titans League Club podcast? Come on, boys. 11th at best. No shame in that. Got to build toward finals. Hey, I've declared my bias. I'm a bad Titans fan. I'm a very, very big Titans fan. Winnie's not.
Year, and they have a chance. Well, they definitely got a chance at finals, and that's kind of realistically all I want in regards to a home final there at Seabus Stadium, which we have not had since 2010, where we beat the Warriors. So, yeah, I'm excited. Desi Hasler, absolute special to get us into the 8. And I don't care about people who hate, bro. Like, at the end of the day, you will get, if you hate on the Titans, if you put the Titans out of the 8, you'll get Titans fans who criticize you and say, oh, you know, what a stupid prediction, right? Or you'll get Titans fans who'll say, oh, back your team in. But if you put them in the 8, then, you know, everyone else complains. So at the end of the day, I'm always going to back my team. I will never, ever predict my team out of the top 8. It's just as simple as that. I'll say that now, I'll say it next year, and I'll say it for the rest of the time. I don't want to put my mental state into a negative before the season even starts. Because if I do that, then it's going to grind out of me, and then I'm going to hate NRL by 4 weeks in. Because things won't go necessarily to plan, or I'm going to go down into that deep, dark kind of thought process that we've had in the past. So at the end of the day, and this is what I encourage other people to do, please, for the love of God, don't go into a season thinking negatively about the team. Try and spin the positive. Let the negatives happen if they're going to happen, right? But don't predict them to happen, because then you're just already immediately thinking negative, and it will just get worse for you. So, yeah, I think that we've got an electric backline. I think we've got one of the best forward packs in the business. We've basically got the Queensland forward pack there. Dave Fafita, potentially Bowie Firma, Tino Fa'asul-Malawi, Mike Fodawaker, you know, the potential of AJ Brimson playing in the centres, potentially. You know, maybe Lothy plays in the wing. So, like, our team is Queensland nearly at this point, you know, going forward. So, I'm really confident. So, you gave your top 8, did you?
Yes, I gave my top 8. You can read yours out if you've got it handy.
Yeah, so I've gone into my YouTube video that I put up and got the list. So my top 8, I did have the Penrith Panthers still obviously topping the table there. I just don't think there's any kind of reason to go against that. I did go for a bit of a bold shout and say the Roosters in second, but they are always under-deliver on over-expectations. I did put in third the Brisbane Broncos, but I do look at their team list for Vegas and I think, ooh, maybe not be as exciting as I actually thought. They are losing a few players. Then I obviously had us in number 4, had the Rabbitohs in number 5. I think they'll get off to a slow start, but at the end of the day, I do think they'll pump home late. I do think the New Zealand Warriors, they're still a top 8 team and have signed a few good players, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, obviously notably. The Melbourne Storm still got them in my 8, but, you know, outside of the spine, it's a bit of a concern. And then I do have the Sharkies making the top 8, but that is a 50-50 at best.
We've got 6 of the same picks. Our differences are, I believe, Eels and Warriors for our top 8s. You have both those clubs, or is it Eels and Knights?
I don't have Eels in my 8, and I don't have the Knights in the 8. Yeah.
Okay, so that's our two differences there. Those sides, I've got Eels 4th and Knights 6th. But it's awesome to see that we both genuinely believe will be a final side. And I'll be honest, with
no doubt
what you said before, I actually did predict us to miss the finals last year. And obviously, I hadn't heard that advice from you prior, but I had us in the 8th to 12th range, 9th to 12th range rather.
Do you agree with the advice though?
Yeah, definitely, mate. You've got to be positive about your club coming in, particularly when you're passionate about, rugby league. For a lot of Titans fans, is like something we look forward to all week at work or all week at school, till we can get to that game and watch our beloved club on the weekend. So I can see where like a Fox Sports analyst might not put their team there, but certainly from like a fan's perspective.
No. James Graham put the Dogs in 6th. James Graham put the Dogs in 6th, and there is no world the Dogs are making the 8. I'm sorry, but I see Cooper Cronk putting the Storm and the Roosters in like 1 and 2. I see all these analysts who go by analysts who put their teams in. So that's why I'm like, they're doing it. I may as well do it too, man. Who cares? Like, I'm backing my team in.
Oh, man, more than fair. We've got a few more predictions to get through. Let's go to the Paul Broughton Medalist. If Titans fans aren't familiar with that, that's our best player of the year. I'm going to go ahead and predict Tino Fa'asuamaleaui. I don't think it's a bold pick. I think it's a little bit boring, but I do think he will continue to be our best player in 2024. I believe Moeki Fotuaika won it last year. I personally thought I had Tino winning and I had Mo as our second best. Loved both of their seasons either way, so I wasn't upset under any means. But I'm going to go big Tino to win it this year, which I believe he's won it twice in the past. So if he wins it... So I believe Tino's won it twice and Luke Bailey's won it twice. So if Tino was to win it this year, he'd become the outright leader.
That's right, because he won 2 in a row going into last year, I believe it was. I think he won 2 in a row going on last year.
Maybe. For 3 in a row. So yeah, I'm going to go Tino. I reckon he'll get 3, and then he'd be the club's most decorated Paul Broughton Medalist winner. Who have you got winning the top gong?
I think that the favourite has got to be Tino, but I'm going to go a little askew here, mate. I'm going to go a little bit off chops, and I'm going to say it's going to be Bowie Firma. I'm going to give it to the big fella Bowie. I would love nothing more than to see this guy return and absolutely crush it on every level. This guy deserves it. He works hard. He's the fittest guy in the club. He comes back and runs for nearly 100 metres in his first game back in, a year and a half. At the end of the day, like, Bowie Firma is a guy that is chomping down at the bit to absolutely slap it up, man, and have a great season. And I do think that you're more than likely to see a forward, especially with how quality our forward pack is. I do think you're probably more likely to see a forward win the Paul Broughton. So I'll go Bowie, but I can understand, Tino, and I definitely don't think that Moeki Fotuaika or even Dave probably is out of it because of the first 5 rounds or so injury, which will really hurt him there. But yeah, I'll say Bowie.
And that's why, like, someone like Jaden Campbell, who I would have factored in, but given his injury, really I'd say Kieran Foran is probably our only back.
Do you think that Brimo's out of it?
Well, he has. I believe he's won in the past, but yeah, I think Brimo would be out of it at centre because I feel like our forward pack or our spine is going to get the points over a centre. But yeah, interesting. I wouldn't rule out Brimo completely, but if I had to name a back that's our best chance, I would say Kieran Foran. Because I can see him really taking control of this team with Des Hasler. Let's go top try scorer, mate. I'm the most boring person in the world. I've gone Alofiana Khan-Pereira. It's him or Phil Sammy in my mind. I'm going to go Loffy. Do you agree?
Yeah, look, I think that's pretty much a bolter at this point. If I'm going to go askew, I'm actually going to go AJ Brimson as a second shout, but I will go AKP because the guy scored 20 tries in his debut year and is a better player now in regards to his offense. Just need to see more of the defensive side, but is an unbelievable player, and the speed that he has, and he's got such great leadership at this club now that will get the ball out to him more. And we've got Bowie Firma and Dave Fafita, both quality. No matter what side they go on there, he's got BK Brian Kelly, who is does hold the ball probably a little bit too much, but at the end of the day, Loffy still scored 20 tries, and people are complaining about Brian Kelly not passing the ball enough, yet he would have had to have passed the ball for him to get 20 tries. So, really looking forward to that one, but I do think that Phil Sammy and AJ Brimo edge down that wing will be really nice.
What about best signing? Who have you got for that?
Best signing. Now, I do know that obviously Keenan Palacia is definitely the one that we're looking at the most to be the best signing there. I don't think that we really kind of signed a great deal outside of him. Like, obviously, we signed Harley Smith, so I think it's going to have to be as simple as Keenan Palacia, because I do believe he'll be in our starting. Whether it be 13 or 17, I'm not sure, but he'll definitely be in the 17. I don't see Harley getting that spot in that top 17.
Trick question. Des Hassel's my pick for best signing. No, I'm only joking.
You didn't know, because I see who you've wrote here, mate, so that's a lie. You're a liar.
Yeah, he's got my notes up. Oh, the agenda. But my best signing, Keenan Palacia. Of course, I think he's more of a chance to be in the 17 than Harley Smith-Shields, as you said. So for that reason, I'm going to name Keenan Palacia. And then for Rookie of the Year, I wanted to look at someone like Keanu Kinney, but unfortunately just misses the cutoff of rookie eligibility. So I think it's also a bit of a simple pick. I'm going Tommy Weaver.
Is he the only one? Oh, because Isaac's definitely not eligible. Keanu's then not eligible. I guess if there's an injury to one of our wingers, Tony Francis could definitely come in and be that Rookie of the Year. So I think that is as simple as Tommy Weaver, because when, Kieran doesn't play, Tony Weaver will more than likely come in. I don't think they'll shift AJ to the 6, even though it is a shout. So I will say Tony Weaver, but outside of that, to go a little bit askew as well, I will say Tony Francis. If there's an injury to one of Phil Sammy or to Loffy, Tony Francis will come in and be... I actually will say this. If there is an injury to one of the wingers, I will say Tony Francis over Tommy, because I think Tony Francis will get more of an opportunity based off of that.
Okay, if I've got to go askew and name someone outside of Tommy Weaver, I'm going to go Josiah Pahulu. Yeah. I know we've got so many forward options that it seems unlikely that he would play enough. But yeah, throughout the Origin period, he could come in and, play so strong. The Des is I've got to keep this young, hungry line in our side. So if I've got to go askew, I'll go big Josiah, who will be back in his hometown of Ipswich. So he'll be playing great in reserve grade as well. Alrighty, that is our 2024 NRL season predictions, and that is our show. We want to say thank you very much, whether you're viewing here on YouTube or listening on a podcast player. We absolutely love and appreciate your support of this podcast. It's a huge passion project for both of us, and we really do appreciate you being here. We can't stress that enough. We will be back next week at 6 a.m. on Thursday, so you can listen on your drive to work or on the school bus, whatever it might be. And we'll be previewing our round 1 game against the Dragons, and we'll break down our team list in detail of players that are safe in that position, that players that could be on thin ice or need to perform early, etc. We'll break it all down in depth. So from myself, thank you very much for being here. I'll see you next week, and over to you, Blaze, to say farewell.
Bang, bang, boom. We smacked it in underneath an hour as well. Look at us go. I know that when the season starts really full proper, we will probably go back to the hour and 10, hour and 15 kind of marker. But at the end of the day, we're absolutely slapping this down at the moment, getting it under an hour. So yeah, we appreciate you guys. Obviously, hit that thumbs up button here on YouTube and get around everything. But season launch, I hope I did see you last night, a lot of you there, because I know there will be a lot of us there. So I hope I saw you, and looking forward to seeing everyone next Saturday at Seabus Super Stadium. How cool is that to say? Next Saturday at Seabus Super Stadium against the Dragons, where they're going to miss all their kicks, baby. I'll see you guys there, baby. Oh, hey, Clarkey will be there too.
Give me 1 second. This can stay in the podcast too. Give me 1 second here. And you can end the podcast on this. I'm going to slowly bring this into the camera.
Oh, that is beautiful, son. Beautiful.